Well, the first 50 or so laps of this year's Monaco Grand Prix was your typical Monaco. Not much happening. Logan Sargent got passed a couple times, so that was about the action through that point. Then it started to rain and it got chaotic. People going off track, going into the runoff space, clipping the barriers, going extremely slow, having to pit for new tires. And that's when it got still chaotic, but we essentially still got the same result that we expected. So anyways, the result ended up staying the same, but the rain made it exciting there for about 10 laps. And that was about the excitement of the day. The Monaco Grand Prix, of course, the qualifying is usually the thrilling part of the weekend, as we saw yesterday. One of the most thrilling qualifying sessions we have seen. Definitely the most thrilling qualifying session of 2023. But the race itself, as we expect, not a lot of passing. Super narrow track. The cars have just gotten so wide over the years. It's really difficult to pass, but Max Verstappen won his second Monaco Grand Prix, started on pole after that incredible third sector yesterday, and it was never really a threat. When the rain came, Fernando Alonso pitted before Verstappen, and that gave us a little bit of hope that, Alonso's trying something different here to try to get intermediates potentially, because it was only really raining from the hairpin to the tunnel, maybe a little bit before that, but the whole track was not wet. But then it started to rain in the pit lane, and that's when teams were like, all right, we got to pit. Alonso pits for fresh mediums. He had been running the hard tires since the start of the race. They pitted for fresh mediums, and that essentially threw the race away. The next lap, they were in for intermediates, and Verstappen only had to pit once. So at that point, his 8-9 second lead extended out to about a 25-second lead because Alonso had taken a whole other pit stop to add on to his time. I think if he had pitted for intermediates immediately, Verstappen was still on a lap, he would have struggled. He would have been slow through the hairpin area because everyone that was on slick tires was taking it extremely cautiously. This isn't like, your standard circuit where you have a bunch of runoff space. So if you slip up in the rain, you can just run off the track, use up your track limits, your 3 track limits, and, be fine, go pit. You can't do that at Monaco. There are walls. If you're missing a turn, you're either in the wall or you're facing the wrong direction in a runoff area. You got to do a 360 or put it in reverse. So it's not exactly the ideal situation. And I think if Alonso pitted for intermediates there, I don't think he would have won the race or gotten ahead, but it would have made it closer. It would have made the race more interesting. I don't think it's guaranteed that he would have taken the lead, but it definitely would have made the race more interesting. Verstappen pitted for intermediates immediately, and as I said, that essentially sealed the race. Unless Verstappen crashed or there was a safety car, and unless it rained harder and, potentially going to full wets or it dried out quickly, that was about the only thing that would have changed the result there. Verstappen tried. He tried to crash. He skimmed one of the barriers once, but that was about the closest we got. But Alonso, another podium. But the bigger story of the day, in my opinion, was Esteban Ocon. Ocon with his third career podium, and it came at Monaco. Despite all the rain, all the changing conditions, the pressure from Carlos Sainz, the pressure from Lewis Hamilton, he holds on to get his first Monaco podium, his first podium of 2023, his third career podium. Also, his first podium since his win back at Hungary in 2021. Overall, just an impressive weekend from him at Monaco. Qualified 4th yesterday, and then, of course, with Leclerc getting a grid penalty due to impeding Lando Norris during qualifying under the tunnel. Ocon was able to start this race in 3rd. He held on to 3rd at the start and was able to hold on 3rd for the entire race, essentially. He might have lost it in the pit stops there when everything was kind of chaotic, but despite that, they made the right strategy calls. Ocon put himself in the right position, and he was able to hold on. Sainz almost took him out there early in the race trying to pass him, but thankfully, Ocon, there was no damage, no problems, and he gets his first Monaco podium. Now, 5 teams have been on the podium this season. Obviously, Red Bull, they've won every race this year. Fernando Alonso's been on the podium all but one race, I think. Lewis Hamilton has a podium. Charles Leclerc has a podium, and now Esteban Ocon has a podium. So, fantastic weekend for him. Very impressive weekend for him. One of his best weekends in F1, if you ask me. But now I guess we should go to the finishing result. As I said, Max Verstappen wins the Monaco Grand Prix, his second ever Monaco win. Led every single lap of this thing. Won this thing by over 20 seconds. 27 seconds, my goodness. Once he ran away at the beginning, I was like, oh, it's over. But then it started raining. I was like, oh, maybe there's a chance. And then, Aston Martin's strategy didn't exactly help there. And, Verstappen wins again. Yes, he now has like a 39-point championship lead. So good for him. Fernando Alonso finishes second. It's a normal thing, him being on the podium now with Aston Martin. Who would have guessed? Not me. But Fernando Alonso, fantastic weekend. So close to getting on pole. Somewhat close to that win. Obviously, the strategy mistake there. May strike back, or, he may think about it in the future. I don't know. But goes to his home race next week in Spain. Third place, Esteban Ocon. As I said, fantastic weekend for him. Very impressive weekend. His third ever podium in F1. Maybe it's first on a street circuit. Yeah, good for him. And always good to get a podium at Monaco, the crown jewel of F1. Lewis Hamilton finishes fourth for Mercedes. Fifth place, George Russell. They are only 1 point behind Fernando Alonso in the constructors. Aston Martin in the constructors standings. Sixth place, Charles Leclerc. Disappointing home race for him, I'm sure. Had a chance to be on the podium once again, but that grid penalty kind of screwed them. Pierre Gasly, 7th. Carlos Sainz, 8th. Sainz was up there in 4th, but of course he had the damage. I don't think they changed the front wing, but then when the rain was happening, he at one point slid across this track, lost a bunch of positions on the slick tires, and that essentially ruined any chance he had at a podium. 9th place, Lando Norris. 10th place, Oscar Piastri. Double points for McLaren. Good day for them. 11th place, Valtteri Bottas. 12th, Nick De Vries. That's got to be his best race of the season. 13th, Zhou Guan Yu. 14th, Alex Albon. 15th, Yuki Tsunoda was up in the points the majority of this race, but was having brake problems late in the race. Got passed a lot. Had to be really light on the brakes, and should have been a points day for Yuki, but unfortunately for him, the car did not want to finish in the points. 16th, Sergio Perez. A disaster of a weekend would be an understatement. Crashed in Q1 and started dead last. Started on a different strategy. They started on the mediums. Took advantage of the chaos that went on at the beginning of the race. Pitted on lap 1 for hards. They were going to try to run that the whole race to make up positions. And, he broke a front wing at one point. He was the guinea pig for Verstappen in terms of tires once they realized he wasn't going to score any points. And, he pitted 5 times. So, disaster of a weekend for Sergio Perez. No points for him. Yeah, that just absolute disaster. 17th, Nico Hülkenberg. 18th, Logan Sargent. 19th, Kevin Magnussen. They tried so hard to run those hards when it was pouring down rain, and it went about as you would think. And then the only DNF, oh my God, Lance Stroll. Yeah, Lance Stroll. He certainly is an F1 driver. Yeah. As I said earlier, Fernando Alonso in the constructors standings. Stroll showed up in one of those first races. He got a P5 or P6, but ever since then, Lance Stroll, everyone. But Alonso's going to have to carry them to second in the constructors. Verstappen wins again. Next week is Spain. Yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you enjoyed the race somewhat. The rain made it exciting, as I said. But Ocon podium was the highlight of the day for me. Let me know what your highlight of the day was, and I will see you guys in the next video. We got the Indy 500 coming up in about an hour and a half at the time of this recording. Then we got the Coke 600, maybe tonight, probably tomorrow. But yeah, full day of racing. It's like a religious holiday for racing fans.